The general public have for decades considered the Beatles to be one of the greatest acts ever created. In this back and forth, I will attempt to reinforce that position. Well, I think it's prudent to look at the actual music that the group was making, because beyond all the hype that the act got, I believe that when you look at the actual individual tracks, that the group ultimately seems to be pretty subpar. Their 1969 track, Something, is a beautiful ode to love in general. It centers around the lover who finds their muse fascinating in every way, even in ways they can't quite place. It has beautiful lyrics by George Harrison and a catchy guitar riff near the end. There's much to love about this track, and it is a work of pure genius. But I don't actually agree that the song is in any real way noteworthy. It feels derivative and simple. The lyrics aren't substantive, they don't strike me, they aren't, anything that a contemporary group couldn't have come up with. Well, you would agree that on Something, the Beatles implemented a distinct bridge, something that many acts of this time weren't doing, something that they would do in many of their tracks, many that would gain notoriety. And I don't think it is accurate to say that the Beatles were talentless. They simply just used the talents of the members they had. Well, it is my opinion that the group wasn't actually all that talented. Actually, I agree with William Buckley when he says, "They are so unbelievably horrible, so appallingly unmusical, so dogmatically insensitive to the magic of the art, that they qualify as the crowned heads of anti-music." I think that's beautifully put, and that completely describes how lackluster this group really is. But you do understand that it makes sense that the group should see such massive success. You agree, right? They had a genius writing duo writing most of the lyrics in their songs, and Paul McCartney and John Lennon. And they had a world-class guitarist in George Harrison who would even write, as he did on Here Comes the Sun and Something, both huge successes. The songs were catchy and anybody could relate to the lyrics. Well, you see, maybe that's the issue, actually. The lyrics were so simple, so philosophically shallow, that just anybody could relate to them. Anybody could find a deeper meaning in them, when in reality they weren't substantive. They just weren't. I actually agree with Heilbronner when he states in his article titled "The Peculiarities of the Beatles have never strayed much beyond the strict limits of romantic convention. Central moments of their oeuvre are nostalgia and whimsy, both eminently consecrated traditions of middle-class England." Basically just to say that the Beatles, they didn't want to be revolutionary. They just wanted to be relatable and appeal to the middle class and appeal to the people who were already comfortable. They didn't spark revolution. They didn't call for greater economic reforms for the poor. They wanted to make their money. Well, it seems you've already made up your mind, but my opinion is that the Beatles have a rightfully cemented legacy. They are considered one of the greatest rock/pop bands of all time, and that's because they innovated and they did something that none of the other bands of the day were doing. And I believe that's why they became as popular as they did. And I believe that it wasn't luck, it was talent and hard work and good writing and good singing. Here is Something by the Beatles, written by George Harrison in 1968. I'll be performing it as a poem. Something in the way she moves attracts me like no other lover. Something in the way she woos me. I don't want to leave her now. I believe in how. Somewhere in her smile she knows that I don't need no other lover. Something in her style that shows me I don't want to leave her now. You know I believe in how. You're asking me, will my love grow? I don't know. You stick around and it might show. I don't know. Something in the way she knows, and all I have to do is think of her. Something in the way she shows me. I don't want to leave her now. You know I believe in how.